You read, you analyze, you think faster than most people around you, yet your bank account doesn't reflect it. And it's not because you're lazy, it's because intelligence comes with hidden traps that keep even the brightest minds stuck in struggle. But here's the truth. Once you see these traps for what they are, you can break out and finally use your intelligence to build real wealth. First, you need to understand the hidden trap of intelligence itself and the mistakes that keep smart people broke from the very beginning. The hidden trap of intelligence. You've been told your whole life that intelligence is the key to success, that if you're smart, you'll figure things out, that your brain is your greatest weapon. And yet, here you are, smart, capable, maybe even the smartest person in the room, but still broke, still struggling, still stuck. Here's the trap no one warns you about. The smarter you are, the easier it is to confuse thinking with doing. You analyze everything, you research, you prepare. You want to understand every angle before you make a move. And while your brain is busy running simulations in the background, life keeps moving forward without you. That's the curse of intelligence. You don't rush in blindly, you hold back, you calculate, you second guess. And in those moments of hesitation, the less smart people, the ones who don't overthink, the ones who just start, they get ahead of you. They fail faster, learn faster, and eventually win while you're still drawing diagrams in your head. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself, it'll start once I know more, it'll launch when I'm ready, it'll act when it's perfect? And how many times has that moment never come? Your intelligence is supposed to be an advantage, but it's quietly becoming your prison. Here's the hard truth. You're not broke because you don't know enough. You're broke because you've mistaken knowledge for progress. And until you see that difference, you'll keep repeating the same cycle, learning, thinking, preparing, but never actually building wealth. And that's just the first trap. Because even when smart people finally take action, there's another illusion that keeps them stuck, one that feels productive, but quietly drains their future. The illusion of productivity. Here's what makes staying broke so dangerous for smart people. It doesn't always look like failure. In fact, most of the time it looks like you're winning. You've got the to-do lists, the spreadsheets, the endless tabs open on your laptop. You answer emails, you join meetings, you fill notebooks with plans and ideas. From the outside, it looks like you're productive. You look busy, you even feel busy. But here's the truth, busy and productive are not the same thing. This is the illusion of productivity. Your brain gets a dopamine hit every time you cross something off a list, reply to a message, or organize your notes. It feels like progress, but none of it is moving you closer to financial freedom. It's activity disguised as achievement. And that's why so many smart people stay broke. They mistake motion for momentum. They mistake activity for results. They're trapped in cycles of planning and polishing, while the people who actually execute even messily, even imperfectly, are building wealth, growing businesses, and stacking assets. Let me ask you, how many times have you ended a long day exhausted, certain you worked hard, only to realize nothing important actually moved forward? That's the illusion pulling you under. And the more intelligent you are, the easier it is to trick yourself because you can justify it. You can say, I'm preparing, I'm organizing, I'm laying the foundation. But in reality, you're delaying. Here's the payoff. Escaping this illusion means asking yourself one brutal question. If I did nothing else today, what's the one action that would move me closer to freedom? Until you start living by that question, your intelligence will keep you busy, but broke. And that illusion is only part of the problem, because even if you break free from it, there's a bigger issue, one baked into the very way you were trained to think, playing the wrong game. You've been playing the wrong game your entire life, and you didn't even know it. From the moment you were a kid, you were told that success was about being smart, get the right answers, follow the rules, sit quietly, and collect those gold stars. If you were intelligent, you thrived in that system. You were praised for your grades, for your memory, for your ability to solve problems inside the box they gave you. Teachers loved you. Parents bragged about you. The system rewarded you. But here's the trap no one ever mentioned. The world outside the classroom doesn't work like that. In the real world, money doesn't care about your GPA. Wealth doesn't show up because you can recite definitions or solve equations on a test. No one's handing out trophies for knowing the answers. Out here, the rewards go to those who are willing to create value, take risks, and act in the middle of uncertainty. And that, ironically, is the opposite of what school trained you to do. That's why so many smart people stumble when they step into adulthood. They're brilliant in classrooms, but paralyzed in markets. They ace exams, but choke when faced with messy, unpredictable opportunities. They've been trained to avoid mistakes at all costs. Yet wealth is built on mistakes, on failing fast, failing forward, and using those lessons to level up. Think about it. In school, one wrong answer lowered your grade. In life, one bold move, even if it fails, teaches you something that could make you millions the next time. But if you've been conditioned to fear mistakes, you'll never give yourself permission to take that shot. This is why you see straight A students end up working for the C students. The A student learned to play safe inside the system. The C student, they learned to bend it, break it, or ignore it altogether. While the smart ones played for approval, the average ones played for opportunity. And the world pays opportunity, not approval. Here's the hard truth. The education system was never designed to make you wealthy. It was designed to make you employable. It raised you to be a worker, not an owner, to trade time for money, to follow instructions instead of writing your own. And if you never break out of that conditioning, you'll keep winning at the wrong game, collecting paychecks, chasing promotions, and wondering why wealth always seems out of reach. And the trap gets even tighter because once you step into that system, you get something that feels safe, comfortable, even respectable, but quietly keeps you broke, the comfort of a paycheck. At first, it feels like you've made it. You've got the job, the steady income, maybe even the nice office with your name on the door. The world congratulates you. Your parents breathe easier. Your friends admire you. And every 2 weeks, like clockwork, money shows up in your bank account. It feels like security. It feels like progress. But here's the problem. It's a trap dressed as comfort. See, that paycheck is predictable, but it's also a leash. You get just enough to stay comfortable, but never enough to truly be free. It keeps you tied to the hours you sell, and the smarter you are, the more dangerous this trap becomes, because you can rationalize it. You tell yourself, this is stability, this is the smart move, this is responsible, but deep down, you know the truth. It's a ceiling you'll never escape if you don't change the game. Think about it, your company's paying you less than you're worth because if they didn't, they wouldn't profit. That's how jobs work. You're trading time, energy, and ideas for a fraction of the value you create. And if you don't own equity, if you don't build assets, then no matter how smart you are, you will always be capped. And that's why so many intelligent people stay broke. Not broke in the sense of having nothing, broke in the sense of never being free. Broke in the sense that you're stuck living month to month, dependent on someone else's system, no matter how much brain power you've got. Here's the painful part. The longer you stay in that comfort, the harder it is to leave. Because the brain gets addicted to predictability. The paycheck becomes your drug. And like any addiction, it dulls your ambition. It whispers, don't take risks, don't try something new, don't step out of line, just keep the comfort alive. But comfort doesn't build wealth. Comfort keeps you locked in a cycle that looks safe, but quietly drains your future. The payoff is this. If you want to escape being broke, you have to stop treating your paycheck like freedom. A paycheck is not freedom, it's survival. True freedom comes from building things that earn while you sleep assets, not hours. But here's the twist. Even when smart people see this, even when they know they're stuck in the paycheck trap, there's something else that stops them, something that feels noble, even wise, but in reality, it kills their future before it begins. The perfectionism problem. This is the part that hurts the most because perfectionism doesn't look like failure. On the surface, it looks like discipline. It looks like standards. It looks like you care about doing things right. But underneath, it's just another trap keeping you broke. Here's how it works. You tell yourself you'll start the business when the timing is perfect. You'll launch the project once you've studied everything. You'll invest once you understand all the risks. You'll act when you feel 100% ready, but that day never comes because perfection is a moving target. The more you know, the more you see what's missing, and the more you see what's missing, the longer you delay. Smart people are especially vulnerable to this trap. Why? Because your brain is good at spotting flaws. You can see every hole in the plan, every risk in the equation, every reason to wait. You think you're being cautious, but really you're building excuses with logic. And every time you wait for the perfect moment, you lose time, opportunities, and momentum. Meanwhile, the people who are less smart than you, they're not waiting. They're launching messy, failing publicly, and learning fast. They're stacking small wins while you're still sketching ideas in notebooks. And eventually, they pull so far ahead that your intelligence doesn't matter anymore. That's the tragedy of perfectionism. It feels like it's protecting you, but in reality, it's robbing you. It steals your time, your courage, and your future. Because money doesn't reward perfection, it rewards progress. Here's the payoff. The day you drop perfectionism is the day your wealth journey begins. You don't need perfect plans. You don't need flawless timing. You need action. Action creates clarity. Clarity creates momentum. And momentum creates results. But perfectionism isn't the final trap, because behind it hides something even more dangerous, something that strikes at the core of your identity, the ego trap. If perfectionism slows you down, ego stops you completely. And here's the cruel irony. The smarter you are, the bigger the trap becomes. See, when you've always been the smart one, you carry a silent burden. From the time you were young, people expected you to have the answers. They came to you for help. They looked at you with admiration. They labeled you the one who was going places. And after years of hearing it, you started to believe it. Your identity became tied to being right, to looking competent, to never slipping up. But here's the danger. When your identity is built on being the one who always knows what to do, you avoid situations where you don't know. You hide from risks that could expose you.
You avoid opportunities that might make you look foolish, and slowly, without realizing it, you stop moving forward altogether. Because the truth is, money doesn't reward pride, it rewards humility. Wealth doesn't flow to the person who hides behind the image of intelligence. It flows to the one who is willing to admit, I don't have it figured out yet, but I'll try. It flows to the one who fails publicly, who takes risks that others laugh at, who learns in front of everyone, and grows from it. Think about the people who've built empires, who've disrupted industries, who've reshaped the world. They weren't the ones carefully protecting their reputation. They weren't the ones polishing their answers forever. They were the ones who put themselves on the line, who launched before it was perfect.
Who absorbed the punches of criticism and kept going. At first, they were doubted. At first, they were ridiculed. But in the end, they won. Not because they were the smartest in the room, but because they were the most willing to look like fools until they figured it out. And that's why ego is so dangerous for smart people. It whispers lies to you. Wait until you're certain. Don't risk looking stupid. Don't let anyone see your mistakes. And so you wait. You polish, you prepare, you keep everything safe in your head instead of testing it in the real world. And while your pride is intact, your bank account stays empty. Here's the payoff. The moment you decide that it's okay to look foolish, your intelligence finally becomes useful, because only then can you start experimenting. Only then can you take the messy shots that actually move you forward. Only then can you combine your smarts with courage, and that's the formula that builds wealth. So yes, intelligence is powerful, but without the humility to risk embarrassment, it keeps you trapped. And if ego, perfectionism, and comfort all conspire to keep smart people broke, what's the way out? The answer begins with one shift, shifting from knowing to doing. This is where the escape begins, because if intelligence has been your trap, action is the only key that unlocks the door. For most smart people, the problem isn't that they don't know enough. The problem is that they know too much, and they keep waiting to know even more before they move. They collect books, they binge podcasts, they study, they analyze, they gather every possible piece of information. And all the while, life is passing them by. Here's the harsh truth. Knowledge is not power. That's one of the biggest lies you were ever taught. Knowledge is only potential power. The real power comes from execution, from doing, from testing, from building. Think about it. You already know more than enough to start. You know you need to save and invest. You know you need to create value in the world. You know you need to stop wasting time on distractions. The basics aren't the problem. The problem is that you're stuck in knowing mode instead of doing mode. And the longer you stay in knowing mode, the more dangerous it becomes. Because knowing feels safe. It feels comfortable. It feels like progress. But it isn't progress, it's procrastination with a disguise. You tell yourself you're preparing, but really, you're stalling. And while you stall, someone else is taking the very action. You've been overthinking for months. Here's the difference that separates the broke from the wealthy. Broke people believe they need certainty before they act. Wealthy people know they'll never have certainty, so they act anyway. They take messy, imperfect steps. They fail, they adjust, and with each step, they get better, smarter, and closer to freedom. The payoff is this. The day you shift from knowing to doing, everything changes. You stop being the person who could have and become the person who did. Your smarts stop being wasted potential and start becoming real-world results. And suddenly, the very intelligence that once held you back now becomes your advantage, because when you combine brains with action, you're unstoppable. But here's the catch. Not all action is equal. You can act all day and still stay broke if you're moving in the wrong direction. Which means the real question is, how do you make sure your actions actually build wealth? That answer lies in adopting a new way of thinking, the mindset of people who don't just work hard, but build engines that make money even while they sleep. The asset builders mindset. Here's the truth most smart people never face. You will never escape being broke if your income is tied to your hours. That's the system school and jobs trained you for. You put in the time, you get the paycheck. You trade your brain, your energy, your life force, and in exchange, you're given a number. And no matter how smart you are, no matter how much you work, that number has a ceiling, because there are only so many hours in a day. Wealthy people play a different game. They don't just trade time for money, they build assets. They build things that earn while they sleep. They build systems that continue producing value even when they're not in the room. Every dollar they make is sent out like a worker, building more dollars. Every action they take plants seeds that grow long after they've moved on to the next thing. Smart people often miss this shift because they've been conditioned to believe that their intelligence alone is the value. If I just work harder, if I just use my brain more, I'll finally get ahead. But that's a lie. Working harder makes you tired. Building assets makes you free. Think about it. A book you publish once can sell for decades. A piece of software you write once can be used by millions. An investment you make today can compound for years without your involvement. These are assets, and assets are the difference between being smart but broke and being smart and wealthy. Here's the tension. Most intelligent people resist this because building assets feels slower at first. You don't get that instant paycheck. You don't get the immediate reward. And so you default back to trading time because it feels safer and more reliable. But that's the exact trap that keeps you stuck forever. The payoff is this. Every hour you spend should either be buying you time or building you an engine that earns without you. If it's not doing one of those two things, you're not building wealth, you're just surviving. And once you accept that, your life shifts. You stop asking, how can I earn more this month? And you start asking, how can I build something this year that will pay me every month for the rest of my life? That's the asset builder's mindset. And once you step into it, your intelligence finally has a structure that multiplies it. But there's still one more barrier you have to break. And it's not about assets, money, or systems. It's about courage. Because even when you know what to do, most smart people stay broke for one painful reason. They're terrified of being wrong. The courage to be wrong. If there's one thing that separates the wealthy from the broke, it's this. Wealthy people are willing to be wrong. Broke people, especially smart ones, are terrified of it. Think about it. Every major breakthrough, every business, every fortune was built on trial and error. Nobody gets it perfect the first time. Nobody sees the whole path before they take the first step. Progress is always messy, uncertain, and full of mistakes. But mistakes are the tuition you pay to learn the game of wealth. The problem is, smart people hate being wrong. They've built their whole identity on being right. From the classroom to the office, they've been rewarded for having the correct answers. So when life throws them into a game where there are no certain answers, they freeze. They'd rather do nothing than risk being wrong. And that's why they stay broke. Because wealth doesn't reward the person who hides from mistakes. It rewards the person who makes more of them and learns faster than anyone else. Look at any successful entrepreneur. They didn't get there by avoiding failure. They got there by walking straight into it again and again. They launched products that flopped. They made investments that tanked. They tried, they stumbled, and then they tried again with sharper insight and stronger strategies each time. Meanwhile, the intelligent person was still planning, still calculating, still preparing for the perfect moment that never arrives. And by the time they're ready, the opportunity has already passed. Here's the payoff. The courage to be wrong is the real superpower, because when you give yourself permission to fail, you also give yourself permission to succeed. You learn faster than everyone else, you adapt quicker, and suddenly the fear that once held you back becomes the fuel that pushes you forward. So yes, intelligence can make you broke if it keeps you afraid of being wrong, but courage flips the script. Courage turns mistakes into lessons, lessons into progress, and progress into wealth. And now that you see this, there's only one step left. You know the traps, you know the illusions, you know the mindset shifts, but how do you put it all together into something real, a plan that finally breaks the cycle and sets you free? Your escape plan. This is it. The moment where everything you've learned stops being theory and finally becomes action. Because knowing why smart people stay broke is only half the battle. Escaping it, that's the real test. So let's put it together. Let's turn all of this into a plan you can actually follow. First, you need a mission. Not 10, not 5, not even 3, 1. One problem, one skill, one project that truly matters. Because when you chase everything, you catch nothing. Wealth is built by focusing your energy like a laser, not scattering it like confetti. Second, you dedicate time to it daily, sacred time. Call it your freedom hour. Every day, one protected block where you're not reacting, not scrolling, not distracted, just building, just moving the mission forward. If Elon Musk could rebuild after explosions and setbacks by protecting one sacred hour, so can you. Third, you build assets, not just income. If the work you're doing today won't continue paying you tomorrow, you're still in survival mode. Start planning seed skills, businesses, investments, content, systems, things that compound over time, things that will work for you long after you've stopped working for them. Fourth, you set boundaries like your life depends on it, because it does. The world will always pull at you, bosses, clients, emails, even your own impulses. If you don't guard your time, your focus, and your attention, they'll be stolen before you even realize it. And finally, you rewire your identity. Stop calling yourself the smart one if it only means being broke with good ideas. Start calling yourself the builder, the doer, the one who acts, because wealth isn't just about what you do, it's about who you become. Now here's the tension you need to remember. This won't feel easy at first. Everything in you will want to slip back into comfort, into perfectionism, into overthinking. Your brain will beg you to wait until you're ready. But if you do, you'll stay stuck exactly where you are. And here's the payoff. You don't need to wait. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need permission. You only need the courage to take one imperfect step today. That's how you escape. That's how you finally turn intelligence into wealth. Because Smart people stay broke when they hide in their minds, but smart people get rich when they step into the world with courage, humility, and relentless action. So here's your challenge. Tomorrow morning, protect 1 hour. No distractions, no excuses. 1 hour devoted to building the life you know you're capable of. Do it for 7 days straight and watch how everything begins to shift. Remember this: you don't escape being broke by being smarter. You escape it by being bolder.